Well, look, the Future 4 strategy was established just over 2 years ago now, which had really clear, it's like a North Star for the business. So very clear around the growth strategy for all four, our streaming service. Also very clear about the revenues that we intend to generate on that platform. So I suppose the big thing was the pivot to digital and to put viewing on our streaming platform before ratings, so television ratings. So that's changed culturally how we approach both what we commission, what we schedule, and it's really shifted pivoted the whole business to think arguably digital first. And I think that's and we're on that journey, and I think the digital marketplace is becoming ever more challenging and competitive with the emergence of the big sort of global streamers, etc. But there's a lot we're doing in terms of how we're diversifying our revenue streams as well, which is another part of the strategy. So we have basically the KPIs are that we have to hit 30% of all of our revenues need to be digital revenues by 2025, and we've got a target to hit 2 billion views on all four by 2025 as well, which is quite a significant step from where we are at the moment. So just to give you some context, we're probably tracking at around about 21-22% of total revenues this year, which are digital, and our all four views off the top of my head, I think we're basically about half a billion behind at the moment in terms of how we're tracking. So around about sort of 1.6 billion. So yeah, there's some way to go, but there's a lot going on in terms of how we commission, how we acquire content, but also how we pivot our commercial business to become more digitally focused. And a lot of that's to do with the transactional programmatic capability that we're employing, but also we talked about it earlier on today, targeting and data and building more sophisticated audiences for our advertisers is becoming really, really important for us. And also diversifying our revenue base more generally. So looking at other areas such as areas that might be adjacent to what we do, so e-commerce, things like that, which is really, really interesting.
It feels like the UK VOD environment has reached a sort of interesting point where the broadcaster VOD platforms have achieved significant scale now, and two of them are up for a rebrand. Yours is due to be rebranded, same for ITV's.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have a whole bunch of other viewing activity that's happening on platforms over there with names like YouTube and TikTok.
Yes.
But I gather that you're trying to work with other platforms as well.
Yeah, we are. And I think the important thing to pick out from the Future 4 strategy is around attention to 4. So we look at it through the lens of where viewers, users are engaging with our content, be that on our owned and operated platform, which the Future 4 strategy specifically addresses, but we're also looking at attention off platform. We recognised probably about 3 years ago actually, that the off-platform views for us were equally important, particularly when you're talking to younger audiences. So part of Channel 4's remit and mandate is to appeal to diverse but also youth audiences, and we've recognised that we're not always going to appeal to the likes of my 16-year-old daughter if we continue trying to push water uphill, so to speak, to get those teenagers to watch all four. So we set up 4 Studio a couple of years ago, and that was directly positioned to target audiences on social platforms. So we've got a content studio, we've got an operational team based in Leeds, about 150 of them now, that basically exist to specifically populate our social channels with existing, so clips, but also new content. So we're creating bespoke youth-based content for platforms such as YouTube, TikTok, Snap, Meta. Only recently, literally a month ago, we announced the launch of Channel 4.0, which is a new youth channel specifically focused on or specifically for YouTube, which is all of its bespoke, primarily shorter form content that's designed to appeal to younger audiences.
Back in the broadcast environment, we had a lot of lively discussion here today about the viability of measuring a single person view across platforms. That's just in the broadcaster environment, without considering other distributors like YouTube. How achievable do you think it is to thread the needle?
It's really hard, and it's really hard, particularly when you're talking to closed platforms like Google and Meta. I mean, you have to look at your owned and operated proposition, and you have to take, obviously you take a sort of medium to long term forecast view on the views that we expect from our streamed and also our linear channels, and then when you start distributing content, the other thing I didn't talk about was that we've started to distribute long form, full length episodes on YouTube from June this year, and that was again a controversial move, bearing in mind that there was considerations around whether or not it was actually going to cannibalise our owned and operated business. Now it hasn't done that. It's actually been quite interesting. We track the performance of viewing to content pre and post upload on YouTube, and actually we've seen in some instances to certain shows, particularly some of our younger shows, where we do struggle to find youth audiences on all four. It's actually, there's some kind of whether it's a water cooler or a sort of viral effect where content has actually spiked on our owned and operated once it's been uploaded on YouTube. So there's a sense that it's, and this wasn't the design, but there is a sense that younger audiences are watching stuff that may be new to them on YouTube and are coming to all four to watch more. And I think that's important. The principle of the content package that sits on platforms like YouTube is a proportion of all four. It's not all of all four. So we're being quite selective about the type of content that's right for YouTube, and it's obviously more younger skewing, more entertainment focused, comedy, etc., that we know appeals to that type of audience. And it's interesting to see that audience flow back into our streaming platform for.
In terms of your advertiser offering across these surfaces, it certainly isn't your classic demographic-based traditional buy. You're offering first-party data, you're offering your brand match, data overlays, a lot of new tricks in the box. It's very, very different from the way things used to be.
Yes, and the level of sophistication in terms of the targeted products that we offer is again designed to do a couple of things: to maintain our existing position in the market and appeal to our existing cohort of advertisers, but we've also got one eye to look at that long tail of advertisers. We might appeal to, or we might have circa 3,000 plus advertisers that are spending on Channel 4 All 4 in any one particular month. But one of the rationale behind Brand Match, which is our data matching product, which allows clients with first party data to match their data with all four users and to target them specifically, was also designed to sort of open up that long tail of clients that are spending on the digital platforms, and there's hundreds of thousands of them that are those kind of like D2C kind of like brands that we feel with more sophisticated targeted products it will potentially turn that dial to bring those new to TV clients to Channel 4 and to all four. So that's one of the reasons why we've started to launch those products, and we've just announced pretty recently an overlay of our existing brand match products, which is with Nectar, which offers integrates transactional data, Sainsbury's shopper data, so particularly appeals actually to the likes of the FMCG. So again, that's an example of appealing to our core, but hopefully supercharging that market, because that's really rich information about whether or not that the advertising is actually impacting, sales data within Sainsbury's supermarkets, which is really exciting.
And lastly, at a conference like this, there are often grumbles about what's wrong or what's broken in the industry, frustrations are aired, but what are you just most excited about for the next year ahead?
Well, I think the continuation of these data-led products is really exciting. I think the other thing that's really interesting is around the advertising experience generally, and taking some cues from what's going on in the US. I think there's a lot of rich opportunity for us as broadcasters to think about that advertising experience in terms of delivering, meaningful uplift in brand saliency, efficacy, that kind of thing. Now that might be in terms of a specific advertising format. We've not really reinvented the wheel in ad format territory, or it might be in terms of specific positioning of ads within content. So I think those areas actually are things that we will be looking at in a lot more detail over the course of the next 6 to 12 months, with an opportunity to refining those and launching them hopefully next year.